Thank you. Good afternoon, I'm Spencer and I'm with Student Government, and thank you so much for having me today. As always, I'll just give you a little update on what we've been doing lately. First of all, you might not know this, but we have a tradition of doing student surveys every week or conducting them. Our senators go out and talk to students about things, and we use that to help us with determining projects and goals and moving forward on certain things. So for the past couple of weeks, our surveys have focused on healthier options on our meal plans and other things having to do with food services. And coming up, we'll be asking students for opinions on some of our more specific projects. Also, we're gearing up for the student activity fee allocation process for the fall semester. Applications are due on the 22nd of February, and after that, our staff committee will be conducting deliberations with all of the RSOs that apply, and then the week after that, they will hold deliberations to decide how much money they're going to allocate from the student activity fund. So it's really hard work, and the committee, they work really hard to make sure that we're always fair and meeting the students' needs. So we take our job very seriously when it comes to SAFA. And finally, as always, we've been attending and setting up a lot of meetings lately about so many important things on campus, including recycling, IT, diversity, and campus safety. So we're working really hard for the students, and we really do appreciate all your help and all of your willingness to help us out with our projects and talk with us about issues. So if there are any questions, just let me know, and I'd be happy to talk with any of you. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, my name is Stephanie and I'm representing Staff Senate. Our update includes, currently we're working on our Constitution. We have a Constitution Review Committee getting together and making updates. Also our staff handbook, that has been a long process, but we anticipate that it will be on the board agenda in May. So if you want to see, there's a draft out there where you can see the updated content and also the new format, which I think everyone will really like. It's easy to use and looks great. Also, we have a new Staff Senate newsletter that comes out monthly, so thank you to the Communications Committee for organizing that, but you can see that will be emailed out monthly to give you kind of a Staff Senate update, what we're doing and what's going on. Also, we had UCAPD visit our last Staff Senate meeting, thanks to Arch and those that arranged that, Brad Moore. And they gave us a safety update, and it was very informative, and what we've done is include their PowerPoint presentation in our Staff Senate minutes, so when those go out, you will be able to see the PowerPoint presentation and just get a snapshot of the safety initiatives that are going on at UCA. We all learned something new, so we appreciate that. Also, we are actively involved in the strategic planning and budgeting process. Upcoming in March, you will see there's some campus forums, and I just want to encourage all of you to participate in that process. Look for those emails coming soon. We're also reviewing the Diversity Advisory Committee report and making suggestions and feedback on that as well. And Parking Committee. It's meeting, and we have forwarded, as you know, all of your suggestions and comments that we've received all academic year have gone to the Parking Committee, so trust that. But if you have any other feedback or comments or notes about parking on campus or reserved parking specifically, make sure that we get that so we can pass that along to that committee. They are working on making a recommendation for next year. It's a very hot topic typically. Also, just another few announcements. Employee of the Year, we are accepting nominations. So faculty, staff, and students alike, please take the time to nominate a deserving staff member for the Employee of the Year awards. We will award 2 this year, 1 for a non-classified staff person and for a classified staff person. So it only takes a few minutes, and we really would like to see some more nominations on that. Also, the scholarship information is out. So if you're interested in a scholarship, a staff scholarship, or a dependent scholarship, those are also due March 8th. So look for those. And then we're going to send a save the date, coming soon, but a save the date email for our spring picnic. Tentative date will be April 30th. So look for that. And our next Senate meeting is February 27th at 10 a.m. and we meet in Wingo 315. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kevin Browne, President of the Faculty Senate, and a number of things that we're talking about these days. The President's going to speak about the concealed carry issue in a little bit, and that is something that gravely concerns a lot of us. We haven't had much of an opportunity to discuss it at this point, but clearly it's something that is coming up. I wanted to, many of you saw this article, I hope that you did, in the Dem Gazette on Sunday in the Arkansas section. We had a lively Faculty Senate meeting about a week ago, it was a week ago, and the President answered a lot of very tough questions about the pouring rights and the allocation issues, the issues of allocation of those monies coming from the pouring rights. And after that meeting, I sent the President an email that was also copied to the press and a number of others. And it said, thank you for your appearance today, your candor, and your consistent willingness to share information and exchange views with us. We may disagree on some things, sometimes passionately, but the two big stories are how far we've come in the last 5 years, and especially in the last several months, number one. And number two, how open and robust our shared governance is. And then the article goes on not only to describe some of the feistiness in this meeting, but also to report that some of even our more feisty senators, such as Senator Bradley, praising the openness of this process. And check out the headline of this article. UCA's vendor debate praised. Candor allows for discourse. You see, I think this is a significant turning point, or could be, in the kind of coverage that we're getting. Because it says that our ability to disagree and our ability to have these kinds of conversations is a strength and not a weakness, and is something that we should be proud of and something that we should embrace. And rather than saying in a Faculty Senate meeting, or as a Faculty Senate meeting assembles, oh, the press is here, maybe we better be more cautious in what we say, maybe we don't have to be. Maybe we can talk openly, disagree collegially and respectfully, but candidly, and work out our differences and the many, many things that we're doing together. Contention over allocation of resources is not unusual on a university campus. Tension between academics and athletics over resources is not unusual on a university campus. It's normal, and we shouldn't be afraid to have these conversations together, even when we're feeling a little feisty and emotional about them. And that's what I wanted to say today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Browne. I feel like I just got set up.
You did.
I'm telling that to the camera. No, I appreciate it. Let me just say, it was feisty. Dr. Rowley and others, Dr. Bolter, Dr. Bradley, we had a candid and I think productive discussion that day. And I mean that in all sincerity, although sometimes I made my living for about 30 years in and out of courtrooms, and I would say that some of the questioning that day was appropriate. It was testy, but it was okay. We all understood where we are. We had a very thorough discussion, and I think, and I didn't know obviously how, my quarrel has never been, let me just say this, with Ms. Shelton. My quarrel has never been with Ms. Sims. My quarrel has never been with any reporter. My quarrel has always been with the headline writer. I think about it, I think the reporting that we've received over the last 5.5 years has been fair. There are times I'd rather it not have been in the newspaper, but I think by and large, no, all the ways, I think I was quoted accurately each time I was quoted. I think the news coverage by and large is balanced. The headlines, sometimes I'd really like to talk to that person that wrote it. Particularly one when I was home about 2 hours ago eating a peanut butter sandwich about our, quote, payroll problem, which I'll talk about just maybe in a minute. Having said that, I'll try to address the questions that were posed, and one of them I may spend a few more minutes on than the others. And I may as well go ahead and take the fun one right out of the gate, which is the bill that's moving through the General Assembly in Arkansas. It's passed the House of Representatives, and it's now pending in the Senate Judiciary Committee, that would allow faculty and staff members who possess concealed permits to carry concealed weapons to carry on a college campus in Arkansas. The bill started out when it was first introduced by Representative Collins, who, by the way, was on our campus, I believe, 2 weeks ago talking about it on his way back to Fayetteville, which is where his home is. It was introduced the first time to just permit it. As you'll recall, and the college and university had no way to deal with it. It was just a flat blanket saying if you possess that and you're a faculty or staff member, then you're authorized to carry a concealed weapon. The churches, there was a separate bill that was moving through the General Assembly for churches, and the churches talked to the sponsors, and they put a provision in there that the churches, I guess, have to opt in to, in other words, they can do it if the church governing body or if the congregation doesn't have a governing body, then whoever the elders are or the minister can authorize that to happen. On this bill, some people went to visit with Representative Collins, and he amended his bill to provide that a college or university may opt out. So that's the way the bill passed the House of Representatives. So it would authorize a faculty or staff member, not students, faculty or staff that have a permit to carry the concealed weapon on the campus and in the buildings unless the governing body of the college or university opted out. There are 2 other provisions of note in that bill. One would be for colleges and universities, the way it's currently written, that would be an annual requirement. So if you opted out, say a board opted out in August of a particular year, that opting out provision would expire 1 year from that date, so you would have to opt out each year. There's also a provision in that bill, the way I read it and interpret it, that would allow the board, even if they decided to opt out, they could also put provisions in there where they could allow persons other than law enforcement officers to carry concealed weapons. So it's sort of a hybrid kind of thing, the way I read it. I'm not sure that's the intent, but that's the way I think most of us that have read it look at it, that we could say only certain individuals could carry, even if they had the permit and everybody else couldn't. That bill's passed the House of Representatives. It's now in the Senate Judiciary Committee. There is some thought and some discussion in the Capitol when it comes to that legislation to take that and make it, instead of an opt-out provision, make it an opt-in. So it would flip it. So that the bill would say, if the Senate amends it, that it would only be effective on a college or university campus in Arkansas if the Board of Trustees took an affirmative vote to say you may carry concealed weapons if you have a permit. Okay, so that's sort of, it's either going to be an opt-out or an opt-in. The bill, as I read it, does not have what's called an emergency clause on it. What that means is that if it passes, whatever version passes both houses, and if the governor then signs that legislation into law, it would not be effective until 90 days after what's called the sine die adjournment of the General Assembly. That date, the sine die adjournment date, is usually sometime in early May, which then you count 90 days out. That would make the law effective about sometime in the first week of October, somewhere between the 1st of August and the 15th of August. So that's the background and the history. Currently, on our campus, there's a state law that prohibits carrying of concealed weapons in buildings and to campus events. That's in the law. We have a UCA board policy, I believe it's 507, that says that firearms of any kind can't be on our campus, in our residence halls, or in a building, or in events. That's a policy that was adopted by the Board of Trustees many years ago, and it was sort of tweaked a little bit and cleaned up in December of last year when we went through some of the rewrites of the board policies. So that's all by way of background. Ultimately, it may, depending on what the law ends up being, there may or may not have to be a recommendation from the administration to the Board of Trustees. Obviously, I was one of the presidents we met. I'm not in favor of that provision. I have to rely on the police and some other things in making that recommendation. I don't want to beat around the bush. We can have a campus discussion at some point. I'm sure there may be faculty or staff members that are not here that may watch this. There may be some in the room that disagree with my position, but I think the chief, and I don't know if he's here, yeah, he's in the back, that I do not intend to recommend to the board that they permit that. But I don't want to mince any words. I want to be as clear as I can. That's my position. That doesn't mean that I don't agree with the Second Amendment. I'm not here to make a speech about that. I respect the right of those who disagree, but I have to rely. I think the chief would join me in that assessment. You know, it's just one of those things. So I'm not. What I don't want to do is, I don't know what the board will do. I'm not going to poll them, and can't do that legally, can I, Katie? No. We have to do our business in open session. All I can tell you is a campus, and I'll take whatever heat comes with it if it does, but that's my position. And that's where, you know, I respect the right of those who may disagree with me. I understand there's strong opinions on other sides of that. Senator Baker and I may disagree. Not Senator anymore, he's Gilbert. I don't know what his position is. I don't know. But, you know, when you get in this arena, you have to call them like you see them, and you have to do the best you can and make the decisions. So I don't want to, that's my position. I don't know what the UCA board will do, but that will be my position on that topic. Number two, someone asked how many faculty do we have, and I don't know exactly what this question's about. For the fall of 2012, we had total employees. This is full-time, part-time, faculty and staff, 1,330 employees. We had 541 full-time faculty, and we had 185 part-time faculty. So that means we had 726, if my math is correct, full and part-time faculty members, and the balance will be staff. We also have 52 full-time staff members that have faculty rank. Congratulations, Dr. Runge. You're one of them. But that's sort of what that deal is. There was another question on Lewis Science Center, and there may have been some confusion about the board meeting in December. I got word back that, well, Courtway, you just pulled the rug out from under us. When are you breaking ground on Lewis Science Center? You know, there's some deal cooked up. Well, with my apologies to the English department, there ain't no deal cooked up. There is not. What there is, and and I bungled it up. Let me just say this to the camera. I goofed it up because we had a discussion. If you were at the board meeting, the first slide was the assumptions that we were making before we went into the exercise. And the assumptions were as follows. Flat enrollment, number one. Number two, no additional state money for bricks. And number three was no private money. So I tried to paint the worst case scenario financially. I guess, no, it's not the worst. The worst could be declining enrollment and a cut in state money, and I'll get to that in a minute. Okay? But so what we were doing is I was trying to say, okay, let's just try to lay it out. What's the hardest way to come up to build a building? Because every other building that we're sitting in or go to class in or teach in If it's an academic building, it was paid for by the taxpayers of the state of Arkansas by and large. We might have helped some. But by and large, all the E&G buildings have been paid for by the state of Arkansas. The auxiliary buildings we build, and if they're residence halls, we rent the beds out. And so if we had a student laying on a pillow at night, they're paying us rent, so we can pay for that. Same way with the cafeteria. So the auxiliaries do that. So what I was trying to do was I was trying to sketch up a way, okay, let's fairly present to the Board of Trustees the hardest scenario if we're going to try to build a new academic building. So we laid that out. So then what we did, and this is my mistake, we then, and I hate this word, I swear I hate it, but I'm going to use it, segue into the science building. And we said, okay, if we want to do a $70 million science building, it could have been a $70 million ice cream parlor, Dr. Casey. It could have been anything, but we used science. And what did we say? To pay the debt service on a $70 million building, whether it's science, liberal arts, you name it, $70 million bucks with flat enrollment, no state help, and no private help. It took 4% tuition increase. And everybody's hair stood on end. And it should have. So don't think that because of that discussion and because I bungled up the segue from going from that to science, that there's a deal. It's not, you'll look at the agenda for next Friday, Lewis Science is not on there, is it? No. So that's what happened on that. So I don't know what the future holds. What I will tell you is the Board of Trustees is going to have a retreat on March the 21st and 22nd at Mather Lodge at Pettygene, and they're going to talk about a lot of things. It's going to be a board-driven retreat. It's not going to be, if I can go a day and a half and never say a word, I'll drive down the mountain and say, that's a good day. This is going to be the board talking to each other and telling us, here's where we want this university to go. Here's our vision for UCA. Here are the things that we think are important in how this university, A, ought to look, B, ought to teach, and direction, I'm not talking about here's how you're going to teach it or what you're going to teach, but are there things that we're not doing that they think maybe we ought to explore doing? We'll get a sense at that time of sort of the direction they want to head. So that's the thing on the science building. That's also my same answer to the person who asked about the nursing building. I think coming out of that board retreat, and that certainly after the May meeting, we'll have some clear direction on the emphasis that the board wants to put on the direction and the priorities going forward for this institution. And I think that's critical. What percentage, another question was what percentage of the budget goes to classroom instruction? It's hard to exactly know what the person meant by classroom instruction. Diane Newton ran some numbers right before we came over here. Of the E&G side of the budget, it's about 54%. If you take E&G and auxiliaries together, it's about 42.5%. And that includes, if you go out and search on the web for what I'm talking about, those are the categories on the Department of Higher Ed website for instruction, research, and academic support. That's how we calculated that. You can, it's like statistics, you can make them say anything, but that's how we came up with that. The final thing I think we had, and then I'll take any questions from the floor, is about Bruce Street. There was a question raised about Bruce Street and when it may be closed at any point in the future. And my answer is as follows. My understanding from several conversations with the mayor and other people involved in the city, and I haven't had one probably in several months, is that at some future date when the city of Conway changes College Avenue, that once the improvements are made to College Avenue, then the city, or at least it is the position as I understand of the mayor, would be that they would look favorably on letting us control and have essentially have possession of, Bruce Street between Donaghy and Ferris Road, with the stipulation and the understanding in writing that we would have to grant the city of Conway an easement in perpetuity for emergency vehicles, so they could get police vehicles, fire vehicles, ambulances in that stretch if it was needed. But other than that, we would be able to control that and block it off or structure it however we wanted to. I mean, that would be something that'll have to be decided at that time. The next question, somebody's going to say, well, when's that going to happen? Well, maybe the day after Lewis Science Center is built. I don't know. I'm just kidding. What I will say is this, and I'm not a street planner, but they are currently doing Prince Street for those of you who commute from West Conway. Excuse me. I don't know how much longer that project's going to take. I would suspect that after that's completed, they may then shift to doing some stuff at College. But I think the other part of it is, my understanding is, from a conversation probably a year ago, is that College may not start at Donaghy and go west. It may start out around, because there's going to be a roundabout at Country Club Road and College Avenue, where that hill is. There's going to be a roundabout there, and it's going to come back this way. And I know there are a lot of naysayers in here about roundabouts on that one. But let me tell you what I learned about roundabouts in my sabbatical over at Hendrix College. And I'm serious about this. They don't make any sense when you think about how an intersection is today. They make no sense to a layperson's mind, because you can't see and you can't envision like a traffic engineer and people that do this for a living. And they study these intersections, and they know the circumference, and they know all the angles, and they know everything in the traffic patterns, and they do their research. And if they say one will go in and work, I trust them now, because the 9 months I did my sabbatical at Hendrix, my main objective in 9 months was to get the roundabout at Harkrider and Stephen Morgan Road through. And that's the hardest thing I've ever worked on in my entire life, because I don't believe there might have been 5 people in Conway that thought they would work. I'm not sure, there might have been 10. But thank goodness 4 of them were on the city council, and one of them was the mayor. Because it passed on a tie vote, 4-4, and Tab Townsville broke the tie. So that's why that roundabout's there. And I think any of you that go through there, even though we might have played bumper cars for a couple of months after it opened, I think by and large, it's working okay. So anyway, I think once College is done, then when that's completed, then I think the city will turn over Bruce Street to us. And I think it'll be a great thing that students can cross the road at Bruce Street without having to run the risk of being severely injured, and then the traffic, people that sit there for 30 minutes and maybe say things they shouldn't say under their breath, won't have to do that anymore. So I think, Jeff, I covered. Let me just close with this caveat about where we are. I think our financial picture is going to be much improved. I think you're going to be pleased as a campus. Diane and her staff and other people have assured me that we're on a glide path to do well financially by the end of this fiscal year. So I think as a campus, we ought to all take pride in that. I think we're going to have more money to do deferred maintenance and things around this campus this summer than we've had in a long, long time. That's a tribute to everybody in this room and those that aren't here. We have 3 residence halls where we still have old-style sort of common bathrooms and showers and things like that. And all 3 of those are going to be fixed this summer. We're going to pave the north overflow parking lot over the summer, which will add about 115 parking spaces. So there are going to be a lot of things happening. The rec fields are going to be built, Spencer, by the start of the next school year. The Hyper Center is going to start in July. They're sick of me asking them, because the important thing to me about the Hyper Center is once I see steel coming out of the ground, I can sell it. I cannot sell something that the people can't see. It's like buying a lot, Dr. Hattlestad, on the golf course that isn't there. You know, everybody tells you, well, you know, buy the lot here and the golf course is going in 6 months. Well, you know, I'm going to hang on. I want to see the golf course. So that's all coming. We're going to build the budget. the Strategic Budget Advisory Committee and all the other committees are working very hard and making recommendations. But the main goal, and I've said this repeatedly, is to try to build this budget conservatively, but also provide for a cost of living increase for the faculty and staff. And I intend to try to do that. We intend to try to do that, not me. The one thing, there are two unknowns out there, one of which we won't know till August, and that's how many freshmen are going to show up and how many students we're going to retain. So we have to redouble our efforts on retention over this semester. And the big unknown is a possible tax cut in the General Assembly. And I want to make sure, and I want to make it very clear on the record, that we won't know that till late March or early April. But if there is a substantial income tax cut of any kind in the legislature that cuts our budget, then that will have an effect on what we can do going forward. I'm not out here, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm very optimistic right now that our amount from the state will stay flat. I hope it does. I expect it will. But if it is not, that will change some of our budgeting priorities for next year. And we won't know that until, well, we'll know it mid-April, right? Mid-April, yeah. But I just want to put that out. I'm not, just pay attention. You know, the lottery scholarship is being reduced. We've got some plans on how to market some things and recruit more effectively around the state and elsewhere in the region to preserve our enrollment, and we think that will be successful. I do believe that even with the cut in the lottery scholarship, it does provide some opportunity for us, because if you look at the numbers and the statistics over time, the big winner has been the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. So I believe any remarketing or restructuring does provide us with that opportunity. So that's all I have. I didn't want to end on a sour note, and I hope I didn't. But if you think I did, well, I did. Because I tried to tell you, I want to make sure that we all understand the possibility of a tax cut. And if it does, let's face it, it cannot constitutionally come out of K-12 education in this state. It's not going to come out of the Medicaid budget, in my opinion. And it's not going to come out of the Department of Correction, which is the prison system. If you take all those entities off the table, really the only significant money left in the state budget is higher ed. I mean, you know, you have some smaller pots around you can do, but if there's a significant tax cut and you take those things off the table, then we do become at risk at that point. So follow it carefully. We'll certainly we'll do our part to make our case and make our students' case, because that's what it comes down to. You know, you can cut the taxes on the parents, which nobody likes to pay them, but then when the kids come to college, they're going to pay the tax back at some point. It's just going to be called higher tuition and fees. And for those of you who haven't seen it, over 5 years, data from the Department of Higher Ed, we have the lowest tuition and fee increases in the state of Arkansas. We are under the state average, number one, and number two, we're the lowest increase over 5 years. The state average was about 20-something%. We were at 18. Last year, we were the lowest tuition increase in the state, 2.1%. The state average last year was 4%. We as a campus have done everything we can. So if anyone says we haven't done our job in trying to hold down the cost of receiving a college education in Arkansas, they need to look at the data. So that's where we are. That's where we're headed. I'll be happy to answer any other questions from the floor. Okay, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.